Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bite Size Podcast. Today, we are so excited to have our first international guest and radical digital marketing agency owner, Felly Day. She is an awesome content creator and repurposer who has been making space for the unprofessional entrepreneur. She's growing her dual business of marketing coaching and done-for-you content repurposing. Felly, why don't we dive in and tell us a little bit more about yourself in your own words?
Hi, my name's Felly. I run a content repurposing agency, Felly Day Studio. We only do content repurposing. I used to be a digital nomad, but now I live in France and I'm getting married. So that's like life has like 360'd in the last like 5 years, you know, and I'm sure it will 360 again in 5 years. But yeah, I'm like Canadian, hates snow. All I want to do is live at the beach, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, France. So that's like my current life update.
I love it. Seems idyllic. What brought you to France? Was that with your partner? Or was it the adventure taking you and then life altering or?
It's my husband. My husband is referred to as the Frenchman online. He is a man from France. And so we're in his like very, very middle of nowhere small hometown while we plan our wedding. And then like the plan is to leave.
That is so romantic though. That's like straight out of like a novel, I feel like. So that's awesome.
Yes. I feel like that needs to be a novel. But after the wedding, after the planning and all that is done. But yes, many, many congrats. So we saw from your bio that you used to work on movie sets, speaking of stories and movies and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about that journey for yourself. How did you go from being involved in film and movies and working with creatives in that capacity to running and starting your own business?
So I worked as a background extra. So like I was literally the person walking around behind the scenes on movies, in TV series. And I did it like off and on for 10 years. I started it when I was in high school because my sister wanted to be an actor. And I was like, look at this. Like, it's an easy way to get on movie sets. It's like not the road you want to take if you want to be an actor, though a lot of people do it. So I just kind of always fell back to it because I'm from Vancouver, Canada. If you don't know, like 90% of Netflix shows are filmed there. That's not an accurate statistic, but like anything that's supposed to be like Oregon, Seattle, countryside, they're all filmed in Vancouver. And so there's just constantly work. And because most things are supposed to be American, they need people of color, and Vancouver is like white or Asian. So I just like worked full time. And it's like the most thankless job, but the most mind-numbing job in that like you literally just play dress up and then walk back and forth. So I loved it as a young 20-something-year-old because I could like sit on my phone and like you get fed and like eat snacks and endless tea and then just go walk back and forth on camera and then go back to a tent and like play cards with your friends. But it was also like a job that was never going to go anywhere, you know? So it's like while I was in Vancouver, I was like, yeah, I can make like really good money just by like showing my face. But also I use no brain skills here. And I'm like, my brain is melting. I'm bored out of my mind all the time. And I knew that I didn't want to live in Canada. I knew I didn't want to live in Vancouver. And so that's where I started I started as a general VA. So I started like building my client base, like creating content and stuff while I was sitting and holding for 14 hours a day before I started signing clients. And then I stopped working on set and I bought a one-way ticket to Mexico.
Wow. One way. Like she's like, I'm out. That's it.
Yeah.
It's made. That's awesome.
I love the adventurous aspect of that. That is incredibly brave and exciting at the same time. When you were starting, did you know then that you wanted to emphasize the unprofessional, professional aspect in the business, or did that come about naturally as you were building and growing?
Yeah, that was like it's something that was there from the beginning because it's very much my personality, but it like evolved over time. You know, it wasn't my messaging from the very beginning. In the beginning, I was like on the beach in Mexico, you know, I was taking sales calls in a bikini, like jumping in the pool, jumping in the ocean, like in between my calls, in between my work, getting on Instagram stories, you know. And it was kind of from there that people would be like, oh, that's so cool that you're just like on your stories, like in your bathing suit straight from the beach. And I'm just like, well, if I wait, I'll forget what I wanted to say. So it's now or never, you know? And I just don't, I have like a, I don't care blasé mindset about a lot of things. So like the way I look on social media doesn't phase me. I work jobs that I got paid for my face, so I'm like, whatever, people want to see my face, I'm gonna say what I want to say. I don't care what I'm wearing. I don't care if I have makeup. Like that doesn't change what I'm saying, you know? And so it kind of came from there of like, I said to my dad one time, like, you pay for my brain, not my wardrobe. So like, what does it matter what I'm wearing when I'm talking to you? And it just kind of snowballed from there over the years that people were like, you're so brave for showing up. And I was just like, well, this is my life. Like I'm not gonna put on makeup for it to melt off in Mexico just so I can record a video. Like I'm just gonna do what I want to do. Like, and that's so yeah, awesome. It was a slow evolution, but I've like owned it now.
I love it. Yeah. That's really, really cool. We tell our clients, it's funny all the time about it's, but they're in professional fields, so it's really hard to not care about like their wardrobe or this, that. And of course they look professional, but it's hard because some people will just nitpick how they look, and you're like your biggest critic typically. So once you overcome that hurdle, it doesn't matter what people are going to say, what they're going to say online anyway. So it really doesn't matter as long as the value of the content is there. So I totally get that. I was curious too, the content repurposing agency, like the idea behind that, and something that, you know, you want people to know and you want your clients to remember about repurposing content just in general. Like, where did that idea come from, and why is it so important for people to be able to repurpose content that they've already created?
Like, obviously I'm biased, but when it comes to outsourcing your content creation, I believe that repurposed content creates the best content. Because I got started as a general VA, and I very quickly niched down into content writing. I got a lot of people hiring me being like, I want 12 Instagram posts per month, like write the caption. And you kind of like get this request and you're like, what do you want me to talk about? Like, what are you selling? What are you doing? Like, what's beliefs that you have, you know, like you just kind of have like this blank slate. And it's like, well, I can create content about absolutely anything and everything. That doesn't mean it's going to work for your brand. That doesn't mean it's going to be in your brand voice. That doesn't mean it's going to like speak to your audience, right? And so I started asking my clients, or just myself, like digging through their content to find inspiration to then be able to create content. And then I discovered that it was a thing. Like content repurposing was actually a job. And so it kind of spiraled from there. And I spent some time, like when I first scaled to an agency, I was a content agency, and we did do like content repurposing, content writing, as well as copywriting. And over time, I niched down to just content repurposing because I was like, you know what? First of all, I'm not a copywriter. Second of all, trying to start from scratch, like I'm never happy with the content, and it feels like pulling teeth a lot of the times to create it. And it's like, because I don't want to be on like constant calls, it was like, unless I'm getting on like 2 calls a month with my clients of like asking them 100 questions, like what's going on, I feel like content repurposing was the way to be able to like keep my nomadic lifestyle, very few calls, and still be able to produce like high quality work. So that's how I like fell into it, and now I just love it.
100%. That's all. I mean, it is like pulling teeth sometimes, and you have to maybe even source from other people, other ideas in their industries and so on. If they're not a content creator, like if they're not just going to create content themselves, that's really difficult. But it's brilliant. It's using the resources that you have already and creating something greater out of it for them, and probably better than they can do. Sure. So now your agency, I believe it focuses on content repurposing for established coaches. So can you share some success stories or examples of how that particular strategy has helped your clients?
Yeah, so we actually work with all types of entrepreneurs. Like we've worked with magazines, we've worked with done for youers. But when I say established, like we're looking at people who have been in business generally like 2 years, like a year and a half, 2 years minimum, because you need to have that like resource bank of created content already, and you need to have a foundation of your messaging. Like your offers can change, but you need to know your messaging in order for me to recreate your content, because I'm not creating new messaging. I'm repeating the messaging you already have. And so I need you to have knowledge on what your messaging is. Otherwise the content's like not going to land for you or for your audience. Right. So, and like the question was like stories of good situations. I'm like, we helped a magazine launch. It was like a online publication. So we helped her like repurpose her monthly issues into content for Instagram, into like short form videos for Instagram and Pinterest. That was really cool. We work with a career coach. She calls herself a neuroqueer career coach. So she works with like neurodivergent and queer people looking for jobs. And we help her repurpose her Q&A calls into short form videos. And it's like super cool to see people. Like I like creeping my own clients' content, like seeing people respond in the comments, and like she sells one-on-one, so it's like that's what the content's focusing on, is like driving people to her email list or to inquire about one-on-one. So yeah, there's lots of content we've created.
And do you find sometimes like there's like, oh, there's one piece missing, like can you record this really quick or whatever, like going back to some of those, or are you able to really work off of what they've got?
Yes and no. Like there's been times where I'm creating content and I think like you should create something like this, or your audience would really resonate with something like this. But I also have this offer called the Remix, where what we do is content ideation. And so it's literally like I look through their content and I'm just like, based on like this one sentence you said in the middle of your caption, like expand on that, focus on that, like dive into that. And so like I literally have an offer where I like tell people to create more content based off of what they've already said. So yeah.
It's the repurpose. It technically came from.
Yeah.
They said what they said. That's cool. That's awesome. I love that.
You mentioned on your website, and I'm sure you see a lot of it out in the social space too, but the bad cookie cutter generic advice that people will sometimes sort of push on others or come to as a client, perhaps. What is some of that advice that you absolutely despise and want to sort of, banish, or would be very thrilled if people stopped following?
I mean, I'm just gonna like poke at people, and I'm sorry to all the social media managers listening to this, but absolute pet peeve of mine is those like, here's the post to make this month, and it's like National Pancake Day, National Puppy Day, and I'm like, those have nothing to do with anyone's businesses unless you're specifically working with pet industries or you're specifically working with like IHOP. Like you don't need to be talking about National Pancake Day, you need to be talking about your offers. And so like content like that drives me crazy. Another like annoyance, like my specific industry, I get a lot of like gurus, business coaches being like, here's my content repurposing strategy. I post on Twitter and then I take a screenshot and then I make it an Instagram post and then I share that post on LinkedIn and then I copy paste it to Threads. And I'm like, that's not repurposing. At no point did you change the content. All you did was copy paste it everywhere. And like that's what I call content redistribution. Like you're just resharing the same thing over and over again. And while both like repurposing and redistribution have a place in a marketing strategy, they serve very different purposes. Because when you're repurposing, you're trying to either hit different angles or reach your audience in different ways or convey a new message from the original post, right? Like if I post on Twitter, I don't use Twitter. If I post on Threads, I know that I'm speaking to new to me people a lot of the times, or like people that just aren't in my general orbit. It's more of like a lead generation platform for me. Yeah, it's really like a lead generation platform. And so then if I'm going to take a concept I put onto Threads and make it a podcast episode or share it on Instagram or make it an email, it's no longer about lead generation. Those platforms are people that already know me. And so it's to take that original concept and change the angle from like, hey, this is who I am, like, be interested in my brand, to like, this is my deep thoughts on it, or this is why you need to hire me for it, you know, right? So it's like repurposing, you're really taking like, hey, hi, my name is, and being like, this is why I can help you, or this is how it's going to change your life, right? And like changing the actual purpose of the content, which I think is like missed by a lot of gurus when they talk about repurposing.
I'm even thinking about, Rebecca, we go over this all the time with our clients, our marketing funnel, right? And it's like the marketing funnel can be, you can use it in multiple areas of marketing, digital marketing. You can use it specifically for paid media or this or that, but there's a branding phase, there's the consideration phase, there's the decision-making phase, right? And so you're taking these platforms for yourself, and this is how it relates to your brand. It may not be the same for everybody else, but in Threads, you're generating leads, and then you're going a little bit deeper into having people go ahead and pull the trigger and make a decision on working with you or not. I love that. It's brilliant.
Thanks. I love that you mentioned too the national days, because it's so easy for anyone to kind of just use that as a default. And it's one of the things that we've talked about too with our team, with our clients, that if it is National Puppy Day, there has to be a relevancy to what the person is doing or talking about. They actually should probably have a puppy of some kind or to showcase, right? And then the understanding that you can share your message in multiple different ways and formats and angles is so important. And another important reminder, because we'll talk about this, repetition of your message is a good thing, right? And yet I feel like sometimes the pushback is, well, I want something new and it has to be fresh. And one of the things we share is, well, your content's for your audience. It's not for you and about what you want. You might want a fresh post every day that says something completely different, but the audience has to get to know, like, and trust you. And you need that repetition of your message from, I love how you put it, different angles, so that you're having people get to know you even better on different levels. You mentioned astrological signs prominently throughout your conversation, your website. So how do you like to integrate astrological insights, or do you, into the rest of the theme of your content or your conversations, and even going so far as to align that with business and personal life?
I mean, I feel like I used to do it more than I do now. I feel like I also used to be like way better at like personal development, and like now I just like don't know. I don't have a practice anymore. I don't know. Mexico was very different lifestyle than France, but I, in the beginning of my business, like as a general VA, if anyone's listening and like has done VA work, has looked for VA positions, you end up filling out a lot of application forms, and everybody's application form, they ask questions that are relevant to them. And I ended up working with a lot of spiritual people, so I was constantly being asked, like, what's your human design? What's your Enneagram? What's your astrologically? What's your big three, And so I got used to like having to know all these answers for all these application forms. And then I got really into human design because I worked with a human design coach, and I was like looking into my own. I got my chart read. I got my birth chart read. And so it's just really interesting. And I feel like at that time of my life, really validating, because I am not a high energy person. I am not a generator in human design. I am not a go, go, go. I'm very low energy. I very rarely show like excitement. And so like sometimes in the online space, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a cheerleader. Like I'm in your corner, but like you won't see me like screaming in the stands. Like I'm going to like clap. And so like learning about things like being a projector and like being a 6/2 in human design, it was like very validating to like, it's completely okay for me to stop and take a nap, because if I force myself to work and like don't take a nap, my work will be shit. And like, I'm a Gemini sun, a Scorpio rising, a a Libra moon. And so it's like, I'm just naturally like sassy. And like, I remember in the beginning of my business, I was like, I'm doing this out of spite. I want to prove everyone wrong because I didn't go to university. Like, yeah, like little, like the smiling devil horn space is like my personality in an emoji, you know? And so I was like, yeah, like I am a Scorpio rising. So it
our
just
editor put the emoji like
on my face. But it leaked into my relationships. It leaked into who I was attracting as clients. And like, I to this day still get people who are like, I want to work with you because you're a projector, or like asking me like, what is your signs? And then being like, oh, it all makes sense. Like, you know? And I agree. I can see it like in my clients especially when I was a VA, like I could see it. The generators, like they are go, 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 like I'm ready, like hit the ground running with their ideas. Whereas like, I don't know, like me as a projector, we're like more slower, like introspect. What's the word? Introspective? You know what I mean? And it changes the people you attract, obviously, when you talk about things like that. And I also feel like it attracted people that, I don't know, it like almost qualified me for a lot of my audience, that they were like, I know I want to work with her because of this thing.
Yeah.
So great. It's something that you said earlier too that makes me think how great it is that you are attracting your personality and owning your personality, knowing yourself is half the battle almost in your marketing, because you know yourself so well. You attract people who want to work with you because there is that either complementary sort of, you're going to help me with my business because you possess these skills and I don't, or it's personalities and working styles aligning too, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, like as someone who's hired a lot, I will always go for like a personality fit over a skill fit, because it just never works for me if I go strictly skill fit and I don't think we get along as people.
That's huge. I remember even like at the beginning of my personal development. I think it's a journey. So you're like, it's I'm not really that into it. And that happens. Like there's going to be peaks and valleys for sure. Then you're like, oh, I got to get back into this, or in a different way, right? I think my first kind of encounter with it was like the disc theory. Like, are you a D, an I, an S, or a C? And then I think 3 years ago, I was looking at the anagrams as well. So I'm like, oh, what is my moon? I know I'm a Virgo, but I'm like, what does that say about me? I'm like curious. I'm like, now I'm like, I need to dive into that and see what people think about my birth date. Like, we'll take this offline later, but like, what are people looking at me as? But yeah, but that's fun. And I'm glad that too, like just a part of, your journey as a business owner, like you've been able to get that in kind of early to know who you want to work with and be able to enjoy that, both your employees and who you're working with and your clients. That's pretty awesome. Congratulations on that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You kind of talked a little bit about this. Obviously, having a message and a client knowing their message is so important. But do you have a type of content or something that you absolutely love to repurpose that you wish every client had?
I'm not going to say I wish every client had this, because I truly believe that everybody creates differently, and so like not everyone would thrive with this. But personally, I always love repurposing video podcasts, because I'm a big fan of talking head videos. They go great on all the platforms, and also podcasts. I just like, it's speaking to my own personal preference, because I do this when I podcast, but I feel like when you let yourself speak like unfiltered, like you just create so much more magic with your words than if you were to like write an email or write a blog post. I feel like when you're writing it, because you read it, you censor it. And so that like YouTube videos or podcasts or even like lives on whatever platform, like those are so good for me to repurpose, because I feel like you can't censor yourself in the same way you can with written content. But some people are amazing makers.
Yeah. So sometimes we get some help from ChatGPT and other platforms, and it might not be as authentic too, is what it sounds like, because you are so perfectly polished. I was actually just reading the other day, and I think we all, we've talked about this before, Mel, with other people, and I think we have the understanding that you want to show up authentically, and people want to see authentic content. We loved all the bloopers and the behind the scenes content for so long. If we think like way back years ago to watching bloopers and funniest home videos, and all that kind of content, I don't think consumers have changed since then, but I see us shifting back to wanting more of that and wanting people to show up and not be so perfectly polished. And I was reading about that the other day too, that TikTok is pushing more of that kind of content as well. So you don't have to have the high production quality, that high production value. You really just need to show up as yourself, which is everything that you've been saying too. So I love that. I love that advice. It's a good reminder for us, because I was recording a video the other day and it wasn't going the way that I wanted. And at one point I was like, you know what? Just going to go with the flow of it, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's progress over perfection. So that's really cool. I love that. What are future plans for Felly Day VA? Anything fun in the works?
I mean, 5-year plan is like to sell the agency. I would love to just like make it like $1 million agency and then sell it. And I was thinking about it the other day because I had a conversation with someone who has this like massive plan for her agency, and I was like, no, too big. I don't want to dream that big. I want to be chill over here. I don't want to like have a team of 50. No, it doesn't interest me. But I would like to potentially expand beyond content repurposing, maybe in a year or so, like after wedding things are done and I hopefully have moved countries again. Then I'll like look at expanding. What did I say I wanted? I said I would really like to do a podcast management expansion, because I feel like that obviously pairs perfectly with my preference of repurposing podcasts. Or going the direction of Pinterest management, because I feel like the problem a lot of Pinterest managers face is their clients not creating content. So that's like the big plan, is to kind of continue owning the content repurposing niche and then expand it into a secondary primary service, if that makes sense, that I can then continue to expand the business, make it bigger, make it more profitable, and then hopefully sell it. That's my big plan.
Do you know which country you're thinking of veering into next?
No. We've talked about going back to Mexico, but where we used to live in Mexico has become the new Tulum, and me and my husband were just like not like, we're long-term travelers. We're not tourists, if that makes sense. And it's like we want to find somewhere to live that we can like have a house and like have children and send them to school. But I'm not interested in living somewhere where it's like major tourism, major hotels, like massive infrastructure, right? Like we used to live in a town of like on the beach, nobody spoke English. Like it was like, if you wanted to speak to people, like if you went to the market, it's Spanish. If you go to the market, it's like abuelas from the mountain who have brought their vegetables from the garden, and you're paying like pennies. But like, like that's kind of the lifestyle we prefer. And also, but it also has like an international community. Like there was a lot of Americans, Canadians, Europeans that lived there, but it wasn't overrun, it wasn't gentrified. And in the last year, they built a highway from a major city to that town we were living in, and it's a big surf spot. So it's now just like blown up, and it's becoming the new Tulum, because Tulum destroyed its beaches and became too expensive for anyone to be there. So it's like kind of lost its charm for me. I've talked about Spain with my husband, but he has like a negative idea of Spain just being like a party place for British people. And I'm just like, there are cities outside of those popular party destinations that there's a lot of Americans and British expats in Spain that move there to like raise their families because of the weather and everything and cost of living and being in Europe. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards like south of Spain, but my husband's really not on board.
Keep our fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the city Cartagena in Spain, not the one in Colombia?
No, I'm familiar with Cartagena in Colombia. My husband actually lived in Cartagena, Colombia.
Oh, okay. You know, my aunt right now is traveling. She retired and she's just traveling. She's a nomad, not even a digital nomad. She's no digital nomad.
Yeah,
but she's just a nomad with her husband, and they're just going around and literally backpacking around the world. And then they come to Florida every once in a while and visit. And she sends me postcards from everywhere. So I have one from Cartagena, and I'm like, that doesn't look like Cartagena. It's in Spain. So I was like, oh, I wonder where that is now in relation. But I'm sure you'll find the right city. I'm sure or town, I should say.
Yeah. I hope. I'm ready to leave France. So there's that. I think Europe would be cool. I would love to stay in Europe. It's just I would not love to stay in France. The beach towns in France are completely developed and expensive and tourist destinations. Like there's nowhere that is calm that you could live without having your town turn into a zoo in the summer.
Wow. I love that you approach your personal life like you do your business, and I think that's important because it's where's the authentic place, right?
Yeah.
Where's the place that aligns with you, and that is so important. And I know people who can take a lifetime to get to that place where they feel comfortable with themselves and owning that. So it really is special and really cool and awesome. I know it's time for a quick fire quiz, so we're going to get to know you a little bit better this way. So Mel,
a little bit better, really, really fast. Ready? All right. So I think I know the answer to some of these now, but we're just gonna go for it. So our quick fire quiz: early mornings or late nights?
Late nights.
Phone call, text message, or voice notes?
Voice notes.
No. There's two types of people in the world: the ones that love them and the ones that don't.
No.
Don't call me. Don't ever call me.
That's fair. That's fair. Physical or audiobooks?
Neither. Digital?
Fair. Oh, digital. I should have put that third one. Appetizers or desserts?
Ooh, appetizer.
What's your favorite? What's your go-to?
I mean, I live in France. I love a quiche.
Oh, yes.
But I do love a samosa or a spring roll. Ooh, a spring roll.
Fried puff pastries. Let's go. Rainy days or sunny ones?
Sunny.
Now, on vacation, detailed plans or go with the flow?
Go with the flow. No plans.
Now, being that you are able and you do travel so much or you're able to like at least live in different places, what's your favorite place to vacation?
I don't know if I even have a place that I vacation because I'm always like traveling, do you know?
I was like, oh, maybe it's just like, maybe a description would be what Rebecca said earlier, something authentic, just like true to where it is and so on. Right?
Yeah, like if I was like not an actual place, but a vibe, I would go for like beaches, good food, like anywhere like Central Mexico, Central America, Southeast Asia, like the vibes, the food, the culture.
Vibes, food, and culture. Love it. Now, something people need to do if they're going to visit the south of France.
Bring money. I'm like, I haven't traveled. Don't come here.
How about eat? What's something they need to eat if they visit the south of France?
Oh, you're gonna like out me for how much I don't like living in France. I don't like their food. They make nice quiche. Look, Okay, wait. No, I'll be honest. I live in like a farming region, right? So there's a lot of meat. I'm not a big meat eater, but I have learned that I very much like duck. I think it's very similar to turkey, but a little more fatty. But they eat their meat really bloody here, which I'm not a big fan of.
Oh,
I don't like meat, and they eat it bloody. So,
and that's intense. That's a lot. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you for answering my quick quiz questions. That's awesome. So visit Mexico, but don't.
No, visit Mexico. Mexico's great.
And not the town that you're going to live in.
Oh, yeah. If you want to do like a tourist, if you like Tulum, but you want like a cheaper Tulum, go to Puerto Escondido. Super great town.
Okay.
But
I wouldn't live there again, basically.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we had too much fun, but that's a good thing for a podcast and content. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you for being our first international guest too. This was an extra special treat for us. Where would you like people to find you online, Felly? Where do you want them to contact you or chat with you first?
You'll like me best on Threads because I'm hilarious. Or my podcast, The Unprofessional Entrepreneur. Oh, I'm Felly Day on the internet.
I can vouch for your threads. They are just spot on. I love them. That's how we got talking too. But I've also listened to your podcast, tons of great, valuable content. So please, everybody, go check out Felly Day, hear what she has to say. It's all chock full of good stuff. And congrats on your upcoming wedding and all the travels and accomplishments in your future and beyond. We are so excited for you and so happy to have you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.